G'day folks. Well, as you guys probably know, in the video I just put up not long ago, my cage is finally going to happen, which is exciting. I just did a few measurements for that guy, so it'll get him underway. He's supposed to be starting it next week, so that's exciting. Been a long time coming, but you know, patience is the key. Well, all right, let's start delving into this oiling mod, and I'll start talking about it. So very interesting, and yeah, I've got the GoPro actually, so I thought see how that sort of goes, and I want to try something different. I think my little camera's okay, but it's the quality's not quite there, so we'll see how this GoPro goes, and if I'm not going to be liking this too much, I might get myself a little camera. But for now, we'll just give this a test and see how it goes. Well, as you can see, I've got the motor completely stripped, and I know what I'm doing with it now. I've got a direction where I'm heading. I've actually got a little, well, I'm not going to give it away, but I've got a little surprise for this little motor, and I'm really excited about it, guys. It just came out of the blue, and it's fantastic, to say the least. So I'll keep you posted on that one as soon as that comes to hand. But for now, what I've gone and done, and I'll do a recap now on the oiling issues that present with these early Holden motors. A lot of my trouble is the oil floods into the heads, right? And which is not a bad thing, but the trouble is you can't get the oil returning back into the sump quick enough, and I think that's a lot of the trouble I was running into, heading down around the sweeper at around sort of 6,000-ish revs. The heads are filling up through the push rods, flooding the tops of the rocker covers, and we only have tiny holes, if you can see down in there, which are not enough for the oil to return back into the sump. Now what's happening too is you've got a certain amount of pressure coming up from the crankcase, because I have a breather either side of the rocker covers, but I have two in the manifold as well, which is helped, but it still presents a problem. There's a lot of people that do, they call them a lifter, I think it's edge orifice or something they've got there. Must be a restrictive flow for the push rods, and I heard that you can do some pretty dodgy tricks with the push rods by shoving up pipe cleaners and all these sort of little things to restrict the oil to the heads, which is all very well, but I did some research, and one guru recommended that it's really not that good restricting the oil when it comes to the heads, because the valve springs really need a fair flood of oil to keep them cool if you want good service life out of them. And you got to think about it too, guys. The oil is like the blood, is like blood for us. If we've got a good circulation of blood through our bodies, you know, that's a good thing for cooling and controlling our temperature. And it's very vital that part for an engine with oil. So what I'm going to do is I've actually plumbed in some fittings right at the rear of the heads to get rid of the oil. And I had my local machine shop do them for me. Great little business, and they do some excellent stuff, and they answered my demand on what I wanted to do. So that's one of my little tricks that I'm actually going to do to this to get the oil back to the sump. Now I had been thinking of just gravity feeding these drain backs and into the sump, which I've got some other fittings. I'll show you guys because it's very interesting. I've got a stainless tube sort of threaded fitting here, which I can get 2 out of them if I cut this in half, and I can weld these into the sump. And return the oil back into the sump. Now I was thinking about just doing it like gravity style, but I'm not sure if it's actually going to be enough, because if you've got a certain amount of crankcase pressure in the engine, well, you're not really encouraging the oil to get back into the sump over quickly. I know it'll help, but I've been thinking, I'm actually going to, well, I'm not thinking about it, I'm actually going to do it. I'm going to run a scavenge pump, the same that's off the turbo. They're cheap enough, and I'm going to actually suck the oil and draw it back into the sump by a pump, and it'll just be on while the engine's on, and it'll be just pulling oil flat out and returning it to the sump. And I think that's going to be a little secret to keeping the oil in the pan, and this is where they really suffer, these old style engines. The trouble is, if you've got them going through the heads, yes, they come back out in under here and down through there, but what happens when it goes down through to the camshaft and then it hits straight onto the sump? Not onto the sump, sorry guys. It'll hit straight onto the crankshaft, and as the crankshaft's spinning flat out, it's just going to get sprayed everywhere. So it's not an ideal situation. By doing this and pumping it, forcing it back into the sump, well, technically I should have bugger all oil laying in here at any given time, which will be fantastic. So this is what you've got to do to really combat the oiling issues when it comes to, if you want to keep it a wet sump, you've really got to scavenge oil out of the heads and straight back into the side of the sump. So it's got the best chance of keeping the sump full of oil and limiting the oil up in the heads. So that's one of the tricks I'm going to do to help with the oiling of this engine. I'm actually going to modify the sump as well, and I'll show you that in another video. I haven't actually started it, but I've got it all sort of marked out on what I want to do, because I want to increase the capacity of it and try and get it up around at least 10 litres of capacity for this engine. So very exciting, just in the early stages of the comeback. And I've really assessed this little engine, and it's a fantastic little motor really, and I'm going to breathe some life back into it, and what I'm doing to it, I should be able to still rev it fairly hard because of the little things that I'm going to do. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag just yet, but you'll get to see it very soon when all will be revealed. So exciting things happening at the minute in the old race shop. So just getting things organised and trying to establish where I'm at and what I'm up to and the costings, and I think we're going to get out of this not too bad. So as far as the other motor goes, well, that's just be put on the back burner just for the moment, and we will get that up and running very shortly, and probably in the next 12 months, and that'll be sort of my spare-ish engine once I get all the oiling mods done to this and good, get some reliability back with my so-called test engine. So yes, starting to really gather my momentum now and everything, and very excited about it all. Now, as far as the converter goes, guys, I've really talking to a couple of I got onto a converter man, and the fellow that's going to redo my converter, will build me a new one, sorry, not rebuild it, but he's going to build me a new one. It's looking like, at the minute, the early stages are, it's line pressure. that's hydraulicing the converter back into the engine. So have to learn a bit more about that and delve into it. But I'm sending the converter over for analysis and for a well, basically to determine what was going on with it, and yes, hopefully we can get it all sorted and correct it. There is a little trick they reckon you can do with line pressure, is to put a relief valve on the transmission lines and dump the oil back out of it. And I think that's, from what I was told, that's the cause of it. There's actually a relief valve inside the gearbox that may be not doing its job. So I might have to put an external one on to stop it, the converter ramming back up into the engine and causing all that thrust wear. But it's early days, like I said. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to determine what's exactly going on, and I'll get more knowledge as time goes on. But yes, very excited. All right, guys. Well, this is it for now. I'll pop something up pretty soon. I've got some other things sort of bubbling away with that sump and that other little surprise. So yes, I won't be too far away with another vid, guys. It's all starting to happen. Okay, I'll catch you later.